Goes. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to July's archive talk. And in the archive room here at Ravenglass this evening, we've got Dave and our resident. He gets disappointed if I don't say this. Our resident tramvestite Bob is here as well. So we will hand over to Dave, and he is going to take us by request from, I believe, all the way from America, through the saloon coaches prior to preservation in 1960. They're all coming in late tonight, Dave. It's because we've started on time. Yes, we've thrown people. Right, there you are, Dave.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. It's probably a misnomer to say saloons. I should really have called them covered coaches. As you can see from the title sequence. First thing to notice, we thought we'd do the 3-foot, not spending too much time on it because that is the sum total of their covered coaches. Possibly the more interesting bit is the first one, from closest to the engine, is the guard's stroke third, and you can tell that because the guard has a lamp over his compartment, and the other 3 compartments all share one other lamp, whereas in what started out as the first class, there were lamps for each of the 3 compartments. They didn't stay long as totally first class because they turned into first thirds. So there obviously wasn't enough custom. Then behind that is the big saloon, which, if it got dark, there were no lights. So you just made do and mended. Then right at the back is the van, and we're still looking at pictures of the van, because I think it was Keith Davis who said there was only glass in the front, so you could look out over the roof, but you couldn't look behind you. You had to open the door and stick your head out. So this is the guard stroke third, and again you can see that he's got the lamps. We're missing 2 or 3 other pictures in this location, which we don't know whether they were taken at the same time or not, but it's various people standing around.
It's quite an interesting picture, that, because when you look at the windows, there's clearly a drop light in the back compartment, the one in front of the guard. But when you look at the front 2, there's no evidence that there's windows in them at all.
No.
So whether it was an early semi-open.
Yeah, or the drop light dropped all the way down. Yeah. That's that. And this is a close-up of the first third. And the reason I'm saying that is I was reading off the doors, but there are only 3 compartments. It seems that the third class was smoking, and the first class wasn't, from the signs. And these are 2 of the guards, and I think Peter knows which is which. I can't remember the names at the moment, but we're in the process. We had an interesting little chat at Lancaster Castle, and after the chat, 2 groups of people came up, and one lady said that she was an Irwin of quite a famous family in Ravenglass, and the other lady said she was a Farron, who were the fishermen and boatmen. So we are currently trying to assign a few more names to the people. So that's essentially a summary showing the lights up at Boot, and not really much more to say except that, as usual, the card has been tinted by someone down south because all of our slate roofs seem to have become tiled, as in red tiles. This side-on view of the big saloon, it was very basic. And again, according to Keith Davis, it was built locally. Now, we've discovered fairly recently a billhead from a firm from Ravenglass, Irwin and Myers, and they're coach builders. So we're now slightly intrigued as to whether it was they who actually made this coach. But currently, because we've only found the billhead recently, we're no further on. But as you can see, it is very basic. Mary described it as a cattle wagon with the ventilation panels glazed, which is not far off.
The people from Stonegate Restorations who restored the body downstairs, he reckons when they were looking that originally it had the small light windows that are at the ends all the way along, and he found evidence that it had been lowered in the middle section. Right. He hasn't sent the report through yet, so we don't know quite how he's come to this conclusion. But I imagine they had a good route around when they were doing the restoration.
Yes, yeah. And there would be some logic behind increasing the daylight in there if there were no lamps in the ceiling. Then this again is the van, with this looks to be a little bit later on after the opening, because the boarding seems to have been quite well dried and then wetted and dried again in the weather. And you can see the way they put the matchboarding on. It was never all the same way around, just to stop it bowing too much. And with each board, because it was cupped a slightly different way from the one above, it held the one above with with some pressure, so it stopped them all distorting too much. And this is as close as we can get. It's one of the sharper Mary Fair ones on the expedition. And we're not convinced about this story about there being no glass in the back, because there could be glass in the birdcage top section, and there could also be glass in the panel underneath. So we're still investigating.
I think I've got a comment, Dave. Oh, spotted it. And Mark Harrington spotted there's different handles on the first and third class stores.
Yes, indeed.
Well observed.
There
you are.
I think we get a little bit of a closer look in a minute. No, obviously not. I didn't put that much more. I was thinking about it. This is sort of August, September 1915, and they've been dumped up at the top. The intriguing thing to note is if you have a look at the panels and the doors, they're an interesting shape. And we have another one which I thought I'd put in of Eskdale green with a train in, and the distortion in the sides of the coaches was tremendous.
think people look back through the 3-foot gauge one, there might be pictures in
Yes, quite likely.
because it's quite badly hogged. It's quite interesting, isn't it, when you look at that picture where you've got the professionally built, coach built 3-foot gauge coaches that were supplied, and then you've got the sort of perceived to be rough and ready big saloon, which actually looks to be not too bad condition.
Yeah. And we think it was built not that long after the 2 coaches were bought. There would be a reason why they didn't go back to Bristol wagon.
There's glass comments coming in, and someone's asking, is the photo of the green, what is the, so
I might have to go back.
We might have to go back and have a look. And the glass could be one of those cases where someone saw the glass missing on one occasion, or perhaps later, and that's become truth. Andy is right. So people do make history up as they go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We never do that in these talk.
So I'll just go back. Oh, there we are. They're still green. The building behind is the Owlet's Nest barn that belongs to the company at the moment. It's been put up for sale, hasn't it?
It has. So and it's quite a historic building. I didn't realise until, so in some point in the olden days, it had been a pub.
Yes.
Or coaching in, or
but
whatever.
then,
and then it sort of
almost
became
every
a bar.
almost every building in Eskdale
has been a pub
at some stage.
So
certainly in Ravenglass, though, they had 9.
And unfortunately, it got clobbered at some point last year by a wagon or something.
Not for the first time.
Not for the first time, but it was kind of the end. So for safety reasons, it's been dropped down to about 4 foot. And it's one where the National Park would be quite happy for it to be restored as a barn, but for any commercial use, they're very hesitant. So,
and it's fair to say they've been very hesitant for at least
50
or 60 years because it was bought and there were suggestions that it could be used for a scout group. If they were having a camp, they could have a headquarters. It was suggested that it could be volunteer accommodation, and it began to be tied in with the famous linear farm or linear zoo.
Was that where the lions and tigers were going to go?
Yes. In that Lord Wakefield had decided that it was costing us a lot to keep the grass down on the line side, and wouldn't it be easier just to let a few goats and things loose to keep the grass down? Say no more. Is that someone else coming in?
Someone's added something. So Mike Decker, and he thinks there's a small glass panel in the end there.
Below the, I think that could well be glass.
And someone has said in the green photo, you can see the glass opening in the far end of the van.
All right.
So we were that distracted looking
back again.
Yes. Yeah, because there is something sort of, it could be the print, but there is something catching it.
Yeah. And the station building, although it looked dilapidated when they put it up, it did actually last right through to the 1930s before it was taken out. Trying to think if there's anything else we can look at on this one. One of the ways we can tell the difference between the 1905 special expedition up the line and the 1906 one is the wagons. The one nearest the camera, or 2 nearest the camera, are 2 planks, and the other 2 are 3 planks. And I'm sure they didn't move them round during the trips. So the position of those wagons helps us with dating. Do we think we can go on from this
Risk
one
it,
now?
risk it, yes.
Personnel quite interesting in this one. Now that we're back to it, you've got Proctor Mitchell driving. Bassett-Lowke's sitting in the first coach with his chin in his hand. We think.
Is it a camera?
No, I don't think so. We think it's Bob Hardy in the boater because he did wear a boater fairly regularly. And we think it may be William Vaughan sitting at the back, who was effectively the first driver on that run up to Manchester. And he's an interesting character. He was a Bassett-Lowke employee who went out with the trains, to Oslo, Christiania, and was also involved in trying to get them back in time for this railway to open. Christine Sanderson is looking in more detail at him. He's quite a character. Mm-hmm. And we thought he was only around at the Ratty for a couple of years, but we've now got proof that if it is the same one, he was there until at least 23, 24, because apparently he was also a magician.
Oh, really?
And those are the comments that are in the Barrow Evening News. There are little features about him. So again, we're chasing. There was another photo taken at this point, which appeared in Railway Magazine, one of the magazines, either Railway Magazine or Locomotive, where Bassett-Lowke's got up and he's actually standing in the back beside the big saloon. But again, all we've got is the copy from 1916 magazine, and it's a bit ropey, so I didn't bother with that. It's Mr. Vaughan again, and I know this is a shot that we see all the time, but this is a decent real photo shot. Of interest, John Wills is the first passenger, tall and thin and looking distracted. We're fantasizing here because the two ladies behind, we would like to think, were the future wife of John Wills, and Alison Redpath, the teacher at Manchester. The stories go round, but we've no idea, really. Then we don't know who's behind them, and the two staff at the back are two staff that, again, we haven't been able to name. At this point, this is very much 1915 into 16. And apart from postmarks and things which helped us to identify the date on this, there's also, between the train and the wall on the right-hand side, the 3-foot siding is still there. And that's key to a couple of other pictures.
Andy says, keep these shots coming. Never assume that we know them all, please.
Right. Okay. I can bore for England, and repeat all the time. No, in answer to the question that came in, no, it's not Bassett-Lowke. Oh, it was Bassett-Lowke.
The other picture. Yes.
In the one where it was passing the 3-foot stock. Yes, but not in this case. And essentially the bit that we should be interested in is at the back. At this point, Hayward was still alive, and he appears to have released the saloon and the bogey brake fan from Duffield Bank to Ravenglass to help out. So that in essence is the total stock at that point. And we'll see this. I haven't got a clear picture of the original of this, but this is an F. Moore painting. But you do at least see the saloon and the brake van in there, and it is actually Bassett-Lowke who's driving in this one, but I'm guessing that F. Moore or whoever the artist was, because that's another whole story, didn't know Bassett-Lowke very well because he hasn't drawn him very well.
Did Narragansett Railways approach Sir Arthur for the coach?
Yes, yeah, they're definitely, because I say it was 1915, so it was a year before he died, and he signed it. I think he was keen because he'd been trying to promote 15-inch, and he thought, "Oh, this is something. Yes, I can give you some support." So now we seem to have progressed quite a long way up. So we have the saloon and one of the Staunton Manor four-wheel opens behind with the touring car roof on it, which is quite spectacular. I really think we should
go for something like that.
Reinvent something that could be fun.
And we could do with this summer.
Yes. We think that's just round the corner from the quarry. We've seen some of the stones that look as though it's just before the smithy and things, but you can't actually see the embankment as it was built up because it's now grassed over. And
do you think we're stood on the Valley Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
As I said, these the rocks on the left-hand side above the tender can still be seen. Although that building doesn't quite tie in with the smithy or the compressor house. So more to do. Now, once they've got the coach from Sir Arthur, they drew up some designs from it, and this was the first of 3 coaches that were built, one at Ravenglass and 2 at Barrow, at Dawson's. And we can again date this quite nicely because of the local vandals haven't smashed all the glass panels in the side, and that helps us with dating, along with the fact, as mentioned before, that the 3-foot siding is still between the standard gauge and the assemblage that they're working on. So we're fairly confident. And the differentiation between this one that was built in 16 and the 2 that were built by Dawson's in 1923 is that instead of an end rail, they had wooden panels. And this one, the panel is about the same height as the armrest, if you like. And the 2 further ones that were built in 1923 have taller end panels, which helps to identify. So this again, it'll be a little bit later because they've made it as far as Dalegarth Cottages, but this is the one that was built by Narragansett Railways. With the lower panel. Yeah. So we're now jumping forward to 1923. And we believe that the blueprint designs that we have labelled narrow gauge railways were actually passed on to Dawson's at Barrow. It's another project that when we have time, but fortunately for us, all of Dawson's paperwork, order books, invoices, absolutely everything has gone to Barrow Archives.
Right. Okay.
So we need someone, some nice volunteer, to volunteer to go down to Barrow Archives for about 3 or 4 days and photograph the relevant stuff. We think we should be able to find that they definitely made them, and that we should get the price for doing them as well. Around about the same time, they built 6 four-wheeled opens. And again, when you look at the underside of the Bassett-Lowke four-wheel open and the underside of the Dawsons, they probably came up here with a notepad and a tape and just basically copied the Bassett-Lowke approach. So they would be the 6 that became the semi-opens in the 60s, which is beyond my realm. And the curator's going to take over for the post-1960s, except I've slipped some cheeky ones in.
So is this shortly after delivery, do you think?
Yes.
I like the door handles.
Yes. No, I think, can't remember the name of, there were 2 brothers who were joiners, and that's definitely one of them. He has almost a walrus moustache, and we have pictures of them at around the same time assembling a load of granite wagons with wooden bases and plunking the wheels and everything on that. So same man. I don't think that these have bogies fitted yet. I think they're still up on blocks and he's still playing about with them. Slightly intrigued as to how you turn over. No, it's only the granite wagons that we've seen upside down. But even so, I mean, you're going to need a few blokes to help you turn 16 granite wagons upside down so you can fix them. And presumably you wedge this up and drop it down onto the bogies.
It's basically quite intriguing because it sort of looks like it's got drop-light windows and things. The doors then don't look wide enough to really do it. And it would be very warm.
Yes.
If they didn't drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might need a comment from America on that one. Because they don't physically look thick enough, the doors, do they? And with the recessed
the
panels
panel at the
below.
bottom.
Yeah. I don't know. Another good question.
But they are quite stylish, aren't they? For narrow gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Hayward actually had a good mind for designing, because the flats with tops cover 3 different types of wagons, that he didn't want a particular type lying around doing nothing. If you could make the same type do 3 jobs,
it's much more economical.
Very economical, very efficient.
Got to comment. And Owen Ryder has suggested that they might be removable, like the ones at the Kirklees Light Railway. So it could, because that was the solution there. You went along on a hot day and took them all out. hope it didn't rain before you went home.
It's feasible, because if you look at the wood in the frame of the glass, it looks to be a different wood, doesn't it? It's not just it's in the shade, timber, it looks a darker shade. So that's a distinct possibility. We're going to have to look closer at what his hand's doing.
And the door window, Mike has pointed, the door window panels are considerably thinner than the door framing. So it might be that they just slot behind. There might be something in the Dawson archive, you never know.
Yes, yeah, if we can get there. So just to reiterate, at this point you can see that there's a whole plank higher than the rail that the other one was. That didn't sound
we know
right.
what you mean, though, Dave.
Yes. So a couple more examples. That one, if you look on the right, you can actually see the difference in height between them. And peeking round at the back is the glass coach. So we knew it was after 1922 anyway. And it was quite a good solution to actually have some stubs off the turntable with coaches on, because if they suddenly had lots of people and needed to add a coach, you simply put it onto the turntable, spun it round to whichever track your train was on, connected it up, and off you went. So it had logic. And again, and now I'm looking closely at the windows, because on that back one there doesn't seem to be any glass.
It's down.
Yeah.
So it is a drop light. It's in the lower position. If you look on the big screen, you can just see the wood at the top there.
Yeah. Well.
So they did work.
And
where was the petrol tank on the tractor?
This one wasn't
quite as close.
Wasn't quite as close. The one on the Lanchester was quite a large tank. Had quite distinct capacity. It was probably about 2'6" long and 18 inches wide, and actually looked a bit wedge shaped. But it happened to be where the driver sat, so they just put his seat on top of the tank and then lit up a fire. Yeah. Oh dear. And again, this is it's a nice picture with Scawfell behind and the 1916 and 1923 NGR coaches.
So Mike is suggesting that maybe there was a handle at the top of the drop lights, so they could go lower rather than having.
Yes.
Yeah.
I suppose it's possible that you could actually run them in grooves on the side of a thin door. You could add grooves and move them up and down at that. And once again, I know we keep throwing this one in. We are more than ever convinced at this point being late 1917, that this was a completely staged picture, featuring two of our sort of standard characters, John Wills on the right and Jack Lister, who was one of the mainstays of both the end of the 3-foot and the start of the 15-inch. Although unfortunately he became profoundly deaf, which is why in 1922, when they opened up Mosthwaite, they put him in charge of the engine there. It didn't stop the jokers feeding the crushers from throwing a few extra stones in to drag the engine a little bit. And apparently, although he was profoundly deaf, and he was probably asleep after lunch. He was aware when they did that and was known to come out from his little cubbyhole and shout some interesting things at the guys who were winding him up. So it's quite a nice one. We're not totally convinced that Muriel could have brought the train up as one. That's how steep it was. I mean, you're looking at 1 in 36. And although they had power, so it possibly could, the only reason that the line was extended as far as Boot was for the postal contract. And the vast majority of the time, all the passenger trains stopped at Backfoot. And then it either went on light engine with the post, or they used a scooter to take the post up. So hence the very, very tiny number of pictures we have of a train at Boot.
Are they Duffield Bank sleepers?
Yes.
Under his foot.
Yes, yeah, they are.
You can see it on the big screen.
Yes. It was a bit of a mixture. They were already starting to rob out from the Boot setup to use further down the line for repairs, because remember, this is towards the end of the war.
And Matthew Feldwick's noticed Fairlight Rail on the platform road, and interesting sleepers too.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so. As I say, I think Simon had some interesting thoughts about the 3-track layout, and I'm not sure we ever got an article out of him. So we might have to work on that. He was going to do an article, and then we discovered the postal contract and the clause in it that said the railway will extend to Boot to carry the mails. So that's...
Those are outside key chairs as well, aren't they?
They look it, yes. You've got the wedging on the out, haven't you?
Yes, Mike will tell you, but he started out one way and ended up the other.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mike will know. In the meantime,
Coaches.
Yes. Now, all right, I admit that I always use this one. And this is 1923 coach on a sort of mixed train coming down. But the intriguing thing is the person sitting on the seat in the coach, it does look very familiar.
Clearly, there is a TARDIS somewhere in Ravenglass, if you know what I mean.
Moving quickly on, I think you might have a comment.
We'll have a look. The different wedge setup is what I've always understood. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, speaking of a TARDIS, this could actually be recreated very soon, because this is the bogie brake van, which took up far too much weight on any given train, so it was very unpopular, and they may have considered trying to put seats on the inside, but if not, you've got 4 seats.
It's a big vehicle for
very wasteful people. Yes. So
can you imagine a railway running a coach just for 8 people? That's huge.
So Bob Hardy commandeered it, and as you're going up the valley, as you come out of Burton Road Station, there's a big patch of green grass on the right-hand side, and Peter tells me that's the location for that. We may not actually demonstrate it in situ. It may come into the museum, but we're hoping to acquire from James the Eton brake van, and we have some end bars that we can add to it and one or two other bits and pieces. But I think as it arrives, it's probably going to resemble that quite closely.
We could probably make the ramp for the livestock quite quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although if dogs aren't allowed in the museum,
Geese
then the way
definitely
where geese come. No, this is a really intriguing picture to me, because I know where it is and it doesn't fit. If it is definitely a picture that Will Whitworth took at Ravenglass, the bank behind doesn't work with all the other pictures that I've got. So if we ignore that and just concentrate on
where else could it be?
Well, exactly. So obviously this is when it was still in operation using the end doors, and they haven't actually cut the new doors in to the sides. As we were saying earlier, you know, coming from Sir Arthur, it was a very elegant design. So
it looks in very good condition there.
Yes, I think it's when it
fairly newish.
Fairly soon after it arrived. The lettering isn't there anymore, so it's probably a couple of years down the line.
I'm just trying to see the coupling.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks,
we're getting distracted.
We're very much getting distracted. There's something else to look at.
We've got the short Hayward bogie that's quite obvious, with relatively big wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's actually quite useful, because in quite a few of the other shots, the opening around the coupling looks to have been damaged.
Right, okay.
And that is what it should look like. So that's quite useful.
And it's probably fairly fresh canvas on the roof by the looks of it.
Yes,
Oh, it's been quickly painted.
Yes. I don't think it's shiny enough to be a reflection of the sky, which is what I think the suggested white roof on River Esk is actually reflection. This I've popped in. It was from a glass plate that we managed to acquire on eBay. Actually, Mike Decker might have an idea about the number 33, because I hadn't found any correlation. Again, this is before they chopped the doors in. And then a few fun bits, and this Andy is one of those pictures that we do keep dragging out, because several authors in several books have described it as Ella's last trip, and it all looks to be on fate. And you could be convinced until you look at the front buffer beam and you see the hole where Colossus impacted on the head-on collision with Muriel. So it's not Ella.
The tanks are too high for
Ella. And
Mike's going to look it up about the number.
Right. Thanks, Mike.
Well, it's where the number should be. So, Dave, let's test your knowledge now. Dawson behind the loco, because it's got the high back.
Yes.
The Hayward dining car.
Yeah.
Is that a Hayward one?
It's a Hayward Saloon.
Uh-huh.
And then the flatter one,
That looks like
that
a
looks
Dawson.
like the 1916 one. Then somewhere behind is the one we did. I'll tell you what. Hold on a moment.
Oh,
Oh, that was great drama there.
oh,
That makes life a little
yes.
easy because it's the same train. Therefore, is that the part built at the back? Then one of the Dawsons.
Yes, you can see the high
Yes,
bit, can't you?
but that's rather nice to be able to tie the two in.
Mm-hmm.
It's classic Mary, and she even got her house in the background because that's Rig Cottages.
So has she legged it?
No, she was on Blackbridge parapet, and she just swung round
as it went past.
Yeah.
And Micah said the third car is probably the R&GN finish saloon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the part done. This is worrying. People are agreeing with me.
Yes.
I thought I was going controversial. This, unfortunately, is damage to the original negative, so we can't get around it. But it's fun. The question on this one is, what's the, I don't know what you'd call it, decoration around the smoke box top? Is it a very early Santa train? There's definitely something there.
Or it could be sort of did Eskdale show tie in with Harvest and stuff like that?
Oh yes, yeah.
It could be something like that.
Yes, it's always last week.
Or sort of Green Man type stuff.
Last week in September, isn't it? So that does tie in with the Harvest.
It looks too warm for Christmas.
Oh yeah, because he's got short sleeves.
He's got shirt, yeah.
Yeah.
And Christmases were Baltic in those days.
Yeah, that's Walter Burney, the official driver.
And Andy, as far as I'm aware, the Hayward coaches at Romney were rebogied with Gibbons bogies, and they left with them fitted. I can show you a picture of them loaded on departure after the talk if you'd like to see. You're welcome to have them for your archive, of course. Well, of course, we won't say no, Andy.
We never say no. So, if memory serves, and there was a degree of haste with this, the reason for showing this one particular is it's a different time. But look at the state of the lower panel on the door on the sleeping car, which has been dragged out of temporary use at Durton Road. It was used to house students who came for the summer.
So they must have had to convert the inside because that had bunk beds, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they put seats in. So we might have another comment.
There's two comments actually. Mark Hunt is a very unfortunate smoke box door latch handle. And then Mike has put the first car as the Duffield Bank Saloon, and the second was the dining car, and the third was the R&GN finish saloon. So that was on the last picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've not actually seen have we seen the sleeping car before now? Or is it hiding?
No, we haven't in that sense. I think because I was slightly rushed, I'm blaming Bluey and Bingo for everything at the moment, along with the fact that we have a history day at a local school on Monday, and we're still putting that together.
Have you practiced your jousting with sports hoppers yet?
No, that's going to sound good on this. So here we are again. The sleeping car with doors now. I can't remember.
It's got a high end, I think. and it's lost its doors.
Yes. So we're looking around about 1930 mark, where, because there were 3 tracks laid at Delgarth in 1926, and those of you who were listening on an earlier talk, they actually laid 3 tracks in 1926. Then in 1927, they installed the toilets. There's a logic there.
And you can see the owlet's nest from
Yes.
earlier on. Yes. And Mike has put that's the same train as the last photo.
Let's go back.
It could well be.
Yeah, it's quite likely, because when Mary was around, initially photos were grouped on where she lived. So when she was at Beckford Vicarage in the early 1900s, we have quite a few 3-foot shots of Beckford, including half a dozen in the snow, which we would not otherwise have got unless she was living right next to it. This is what I was meaning about the
Upside down.
2 joiners actually fettling up the granite wagons. We have a row of about 6 or 8 of them at various points. So it was obviously a regular.
It looks very new, actually, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. And we can't see the top because the difference, well, I say the top, in this shot it will be the bottom, but the early ones had the early ones had angled
Right,
tops,
okay.
and the later ones had channel, which helps. What else can we say? Not very much about that. Just an interesting shot. And Mary actually described this as a covered train, now redundant. So again, we're into the 30s. Several more doors have gone, because with 3 tracks very close together, somebody opens the door, the next train comes in, no door.
Mark has mentioned ladies on the footbridge. It must have been the last picture.
Let's go back.
Oh yes, there's 2 hats.
Oh yes.
We can't see it. It says talking off the top.
Yes, I've cropped that slightly to include that. I suppose the other sort of slightly interesting thing is the billboard advertising boards. You see the one on the left is for the Midland, and the one behind the young lad, I think, is the London and North Western Railway.
Yes.
Most of the billboards under the sign at Earton Road were for LMS. And we've actually traced quite a few of the posters. There was one for Olympia, which I was surprised because it was 1920s, and they were obviously advertising the Horse of the Year show.
Right, okay.
Because there's a horse jumping, and it was the best way to Olympia. And then to the left out of shot, there were 3 billboards, and again they had different companies on, because apparently the LMS and the LNER had running rights over Ravenglass Eskdale Railway. We have maps that say Ravenglass Eskdale Railway LNER.
Well, there's things in the title deeds for some of the land up the railway that references both railway companies. And certainly from around Murthwaite to Earton Road, the LNER and LMS had permission to do things along our roadbed if they wish to.
Oh.
And that's still in the 20 whatever reprint. That's locked in the safe in the office.
Yes, so quite a few people around. And just going back slightly, because it's been brought up by Sid, who was wanting to do something to celebrate Earton Road next year, because if it was built at the same time as the railway, and it's not certain, then that building is original and is 150 years old. It's certainly got nice sort of graded slates on it, and most of the 3-foot pictures that we've got, it is there. I haven't yet found a picture where it isn't.
It's not.
If they'd zoomed out on the track gang standing under Earton Road Bridge, which is the earliest picture we know of, we could have found out because it was taken just there. So if they'd panned round or zoomed out, we would have seen if there was a building there. All right, so we're back to what is now the redundant train, again with Rig Cottages and Miterdale behind. And this is around the Kissing Gates area between Eskdale Green and Earton Road. So it does look as though it's climbing back up.
It looks like they've moved. There's quite a big gap at the end of the 2 first coaches where the door should be, unless the door's open. But they didn't go inwards, did they?
No, or unless, as I say, they've actually lost the doors.
They could
and become semi-opens. All right.
The dining car didn't have a number for the photo of minimum gauge railways, so someone here's painted it in.
Right. Oh, that's always handy to know, because I think, and I'm going to have to go away and check now. You know the famous shot of the one day we used granite wagons, and Ella and the granite wagons and a saloon had pulled into the siding at Earton Road to let first River-esque and then Colossus come down.
Yes.
I think there's a number on that as well. So I'll have to check that.
They were only
right.
the build dates on the plate. There we are.
Lovely.
Yes.
So we are learning. And there's a couple of shots here which also nicely illustrate the big points at Murthwaite. And again, this is part of a sequence that Mary did. And within what appears to be a very short distance, you've got Ert with quite a heavy train, then Esk with quite a heavy train, then Might with this train. And it's a little, it must have got tangled at Delgarth, because when it came back down, they hadn't got round to turning it.
I wonder if they ran Might with the closed coaches because it was reputed to be fairly wet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And whether, rather than covering the passengers in damp water,
yes,
it was easier to run it with the closed coaches.
Yeah, that's possible. Again, we're questioning everything, which sounds a bit facetious, but we're doing it for a reason, in that we're tying in the demise of River Mite 1 with the conversion of ICL4 to the Pretender shape. And it seems that the demise of River Mite 1 coincided with the build of the Pretender passenger tractor, and it therefore took over because it was a lot less hassle and was still quite powerful. Some comments came out.
And Trevor's mentioned the name Dawson is chiselled into the sandstone on the Ravenglass end of the building at Earton Road.
Wow. I'll have to send somebody up, Christopher.
And did one of the locals have its smoke box door hinged to the left, or was that last picture reversed? And someone says there's a train behind in the previous picture as well.
We're going to have to go back.
There are.
Sorry.
Yes, it could be steam, but on the other hand, at this point, they were dumping quite a lot of Murthwaite dust back down the line towards Ravenglass from Murthwaite. That's what this lump is on the left. I'm just checking. We're going to have to go back another one. Now, yeah, that's the confusion. The front loco of the two is Sir Aubrey.
Yes, it went the wrong way, didn't it?
And we can also tell that it's late on because the nameplates, which were above the splashes, very late on, they were put on the side of the splashes. And in 1923, May 1923, in fact, the original boiler was taken off Sir Aubrey, and we have a photo of it being rolled over on girders. And that, in terms of from the driver's viewpoint, that was a left-hand hinge. And then the new smoke box or boiler, whatever was replaced, ended up with a right-hand hinge, which is what that is. So yes, that caused us quite a lot of confusion for a while, but that is the case. Oh, I seem to have had that in twice. I really thought it was a nice picture, and so then this is actually post-war. I think it's either 46 or 48. And it, unfortunately, it's a little sequence that shows the demise of this particular.
Is this the Haywood one?
This, I think, is part built one that we completed.
Right, okay.
And again, I'm happy to be corrected. So I think, was there a comment?
There was.
And you can see the main line wagons behind.
And Murray is mentioning he's fairly sure Aubrey had its smoke box door hinge left.
Yes.
And Andy Nash says fascinating. and to quote Mr. Spock,
Someone's taken it.
But if people want to know about Aubrey Brocklebank, we have done an archive talk on it.
I'm sure we have.
It's worth going to have a nosy. It is on YouTube.
So that's it from that side. And intriguingly, I'm saying there are 3 springs on the bogie. I think they show up better in the next one. Yes. Which is slightly intriguing because I think they may be greenly designed Theakston bogies that someone's put on. But again, I'm happy to be corrected. But you'll see to the left-hand side, the damage has already started. So it was somewhere around this point that it was moved to Murthwaite into the siding. At this point, it still has the bogies on, but the lash up in that front corner is very evident. And I'm supposed to know the name of the two gentlemen, but I didn't write it down. Sorry. And then it sort of, well, it went from being a bait cabin to being just a mess, essentially. They've taken the bogies off by now and shoved some stones under it. And as you can see,
poor thing. Yeah. Is that the Silbury Rockabouts tip wagon?
Yes.
Next to it as well?
Yes.
Pointless thing. Yes.
Well, it tipped nicely when it was empty. Then I've been a little bit sneaky here. I'm going to jump ahead of the curator. This is 1976, and we'd borrowed this from Romney for the celebration. It was nice because we had
John Wilkins.
Yes.
And Count Louis.
Count Louis, yeah. Thank you. And that, with the four-wheeler, made an interesting train. And it's Leslie Vorton who's driving, and he would be certainly into his 70s at that point.
He was kind of Fairbairn's equivalent of Cyril, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of never left.
And John Wilkins was actually sat on the front seat of the Hayward. Then I think we're jumping forward. As I say, time travel's all right. So I think this is 1990 when we did the 75th. And we had not only the nice saloon, but a brake wagon to go with it.
It's the same one.
Yes.
Yes. It was interesting. If you go back there, Andy, what sort of bogies are they? You'll be looking something up in Marshland.
I'm looking at the photos to show you. Yeah, they are Gibbons bogies, Gibbins.
Yeah.
All our tenders.
Yeah, that's handy to have a picture of them. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
And then, as you're there, Andy,
I'm riveted. I'm not going anywhere. Don't worry.
These were ex-Eton Railway opens, but because Romney have got these sort of tunnely things that
like holes, yes, yeah.
Then there had to be some protection over the top. And in fact, now that I've thought of it, Doug Ferreira took some pictures of something similar, but with chicken wire over the top. Anyone else remember that?
I remember reading about it, one of the books, but I don't think I've ever seen
Oh, right.
with the chicken wire.
I may have to throw in a little sort of teaser at the start of the next archive with all these things that we remembered. These, I think you may have already, Andy, but these are Keith Davis pictures.
That is
an
interesting thing.
The semi-open saloon, the third one the one behind our Clayton Pullman, the extensions over the outer platforms had wire over them originally. I'm looking at a picture of one now.
Right.
Yeah. There were lots of adaptations made over the years.
If you think at Ravenglass we were building Hayward style coaches, not that far removed from, you just go back slightly, you had Captain Howie's swanky state-of-the-art Clayton Pullmans, sort of the age, and we were still doing the Hayward stuff. It's interesting how both have actually lasted.
Yes. What I haven't thrown in that I usually throw in is a little article from Locomotive magazine, and it bemoans the fact that there hasn't been any great progress apart from the Romney Claytons in the comfort of carriages.
Mhm.
And it goes on to some length. It's a whole paragraph, and says, and the backrest is too low, so if you lean back, you risk knocking off the person's hat behind you.
And that's why you put screens in.
And basically it was saying, you know, why are we still traveling in orange boxes that Hayward designed? And that was dated 1942.
Gosh,
He was whinging then. Yeah, I don't think that adds anything. Then the other little cheat, because it's such a nice vehicle and it's still genuinely Hayward, we thought we'd slip in a few of the dining car.
Oh, and Robin Buttrell far left
Yes,
with his stick.
and I think that might be, is that a certain curator at the bottom of the screen?
I think that possibly is, yes. Yes. So if you
And-
just cut 3 holes in the side of it, it'd be ideal.
Yes.
That's what we didn't do that though, did we? We just took the doors off here.
Yeah. Now, I think initially they did put those in it. That actually gives us a much better idea of the lights within what would eventually become the doors. And I think
he did a good job of it, really, didn't he?
That was quite nice because it was teamed up with Effie, and we have the co-steward behind. So it does date this very definitely to 2000. And as a nice sort of tribute to Robin and the nice glasses, I think that wraps me up. Yes.
So you have forgotten one saloon, haven't you?
The glass
Yes.
coach. Oh. Well, when we do the next one, which would be post-preservation, there will be a preview.
A prelude. Yes.
Yes. I even mentioned the glass
You
coach.
did, yes. It's all right. You've been too busy thinking about going to Australia this week and sniffer dogs and things like that. So, yes. So we'll just check whether we have missed anything.
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I didn't quite intend to ramble on that long.
No, that's fine. It's been really interesting, Dave, because I hadn't twigged that there were so many home versions of it. And Mike Decker has got drawings of the H&DR mods to the R stock, and that's Eton Railway, and will be in the second volume of James's Hayward book.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
And someone
yes, it was Flying Scotsman. A lovely looking underpowered machine.
And Mike is certain that the one we thought was the home build, the finished here coach in the previous pictures was.
Yes.
Excellent. No, that is fascinating, Dave. And what's nice, lots of nice pictures of River Mites, because we don't see them very often.
Yeah.
So the plan is that the next talk will feature a little bit about the glass coach. And you have to, because it's from York and that's the rule. And odd bits we might have picked up from this one, and then a look at the preservation enclosed coaches, which goes from things that we might know to I'm fairly certain we're going to find things out that we didn't know in the process and along the way.
Yeah, there are some variations on the directions that we took the JRIC coaches, particularly have a backstory as well. But I wasn't going to go into that. I thought they would tie them in together.
And what is interesting is some of the Hayward designs are still influencing us today, like the two seats at the end and all that sort of stuff. So it is very relevant all the way through. And someone's just added another thing, so we'll just check. Ramble on, Dave. It's all fascinating. Yes, we can try. So thank you all for watching. It is appreciated that you tune in.
And thanks for the information.
Yes. And I'm trying to think what's happening next month. Keep your eyes peeled on Facebook is probably the best line for when the next archive talk is. It probably will be first Thursday.
That's the 1st.
Yeah.
Of August.
It's September that goes squinty because it's Gala week and things like that.
Right. And Kate is at Heatherslaw.
Yes. Yes. So yes, if people want to see Katie out and about, it will be at the Ravenglass Railway on the 6th of August weekend.
Third and fourth
weekend.
and maybe
it is the first time that Katie has run, or guest engine has run at Ravenglass. So Matthew Feldwick has got a question for you, Dave, which involves flicking all the way back through. So we'll quickly do that because he's asking whether there's a communication card on the bird. See, if we went this quick, we'd be holding that.
people would suffer a lot there.
On one of the saloons above the doors.
Oh.
Well, they have brakes.
Yeah, I don't think they used them. But...
And I don't know when it became a requirement to have a communication card.
No.
But if
they were told
it's been rather a long time.
Well, yes.
Well, we were told in 1891 that we had to fit brakes, and the confirmation letter that we had fitted the brakes was 1895. So it only took us 4 years.
Yes.
I
don't know.
That does suggest that they were interconnected.
Yeah.
It's an interesting sort.
More research for the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we have a spare 5 minutes.
Although, if we believe what we're told, the service was that slow and unreliable. They could probably have got off and walked up to the engine and gone, "Oi." So yes,
if you listen to Mary.
Yes. So excellent. Well, we'll let you all disappear. Thanks.
See the handles.
Yes, different handles. Yeah.
Mentioned.
Thank you for watching, and we will see you at the start of August. All being well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
That third compartment has got an extension at the end, which isn't if it's a third. See, there's a plane panel beyond the glass.
Oh yes.
Whereas at this end there isn't. Well, there's a tiny one.
Yeah.
So that must have been quite a bit bigger.
Not second class, is it?
No, we advertised second class, but we didn't actually issue any tickets at second or any concessions. There was a parliamentary rate, which was the required rate, but they put them on the most inconvenient trains they could think of.
Yeah. But no, there is definitely more at that end.
Yeah, considerably. Yeah.
So unless they squished the paupers at one end and the first class people had legroom.
Well, I mean, even the glass in the first and the glass in the far one, whatever it is, look to be about the same width and wider than that in the third. Now,
interesting. The bulkhead's definitely there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. squish as many people in as possible. There we are. Right. Oh, it could be a hair on the plate. Yes.
That's
yes,
possible.
it is possible. Very good. Well, there we are. So
That sounds like a good note.
that's a good note to end on. So what have we done? There we are, we're back. So thank you ever so much, and we'll see you all again soon.
Cheers all. Have a good summer.
Good night, Andrew.
Good night. Bye now.